Right now, Allstate has almost as many ways to save as there are types of music. Save for being a new customer. Save for driving safely. Save for driving less with pay-per-mile insurance. Visit Allstate.com or contact your local agent to get a quote. Find out how much you can save today. Allstate. Now that should be music to your ears.
Not available in every state. Savings based on early signing discount drive-bys and mile-wise. Savings vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Smooth Brook, Illinois.
It's happening. In just days, Publishers Clearinghouse will be ready to award $1,000 a day for life. Enter now at PCH.com, and you and your family could soon be celebrating the win of a lifetime. Don't miss your last chance to win $1,000 a day for life. Go to PCH.com before it's too late. That's PCH.com. Better hurry if you want the next big winner to be you. Enter at PCH.com now. Entries due 10/28. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
It's time for Farm and Ranch Headlines on the Southeast AgNet. I'm Tyron Spearman reporting. Checking on the progress of the peanut industry, Nationwide Ag Statistics Service says the peanuts are 4% harvested this week, 4% last year, and 4% was the 5-year average. The condition of the crop is 2% very poor, 6% poor, 21 fair, 57 good, and 14 excellent. In the tri-state area, the rains have moved in from the storm and predicted to bring several inches of rain before the end of the week. Peanuts dug so far is showing Georgia 5%, Alabama 10%, Florida 27% on the digging. Harvested only 2% in Georgia, 3% in Alabama, and 20% in Florida. They said the peanut farmers noted dry conditions still exist in Georgia, even though they're hoping to get some rain out of the storm, Hurricane Sally. They've also noted that velvet bean caterpillars are infecting some fields as they are looking for feed, and farmers need to be checking those insects and diseases. Farmers gearing up to start digging in all 3 states. Concern mounts about the rain and the wind damage from Sally as it moves across Alabama into Georgia. Frequent rains have limited ability to dig and harvest in Florida. Some producers need white mold and peanut rust control, as they are about 20% harvested overall. Conditions in Florida was 1 very poor, 1% poor, 22 fair, 73 good, and 3% excellent. But overall, we're going to have to wait until the rains move out, and hopefully they'll dry soon.
Attention farmers, you could be eligible for technical and financial assistance under a program offered by the Natural Resources Conservation Service. The Conservation Stewardship Program is now accepting applications. To learn more, visit your local USDA Service Center.
I'm Tyron Spearman for Southeast AgNet.
When it really counts, depend on The Source for the latest weather updates, keeping you ahead of the storm. 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source.
Humid today with clouds and sunshine, a couple of afternoon showers, high 89 to 91. Some sunshine Friday, then turning cloudy and humid with a thunderstorm, high 88 to 92. Saturday, cloudy and humid with a couple of thunderstorms possible, high 87 to 91. Sunday, cloudy and humid with a thunderstorm possible, high 90 to 92. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Brian May.
Pals Ocala Auto Repair fixes all makes and models. Pals makes sure that your vehicle's engine, mechanical, and electrical components are healthy at all times. Pals team would much rather see you drive to their shop for a full checkup than be towed in for a complex repair. Give Pals a call today to schedule your next service appointment. 352-414-2984. What? A nationwide warranty, 36 months or 36,000 miles, whichever comes first? Pals looks forward to servicing you and servicing your vehicle. 352-414-2984.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
The Centers and Marion County's Children's Alliance are holding a drive through Recovery Resource event at the Centers on September 26th from 10 to 1. Get recovery in a bag for Recovery Month.
WOCA.
Ocala. Oh, hey, Grandpa.
Oh, hey, Grandpa.
Hey, Grandpa.
Yes, buddy?
Can you take me fishing this weekend?
I'd love to.
Have you noticed a change in your hearing over the years? Missing the little things in life? Visit Beneficial Hearing in Ocala today. Their expert team of audiologists will make sure you never miss a moment. Call Beneficial Hearing today at 352-629-4418 or visit them online, beneficialhearing.com.
Gene Powell Pasture Mowing, 352-629-2440. In addition to our pasture mowing and tractor services, including zero-turn mowers for your fence line finish, we also offer rototilling and fence row spraying. We are family-owned and operated, licensed and insured, and farm-ready. Powell Gene, Gene, at yahoo.com, 352-629-2440. Gene Powell Pasture Mowing, 352-629-2440. Gene is a proud United States veteran.
When it really counts, depend on the source for the latest weather updates, keeping you ahead of the storm. 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source.
Humid today with clouds and sunshine, a couple of afternoon showers, high 89 to 91. Some sunshine Friday, then turning cloudy and humid with a thunderstorm, high 88 to 92. Saturday, cloudy and humid with a couple of thunderstorms possible, high 87 to 91. Sunday, cloudy and humid with a thunderstorm possible, high 90 to 92. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Brian May.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
That sound as we welcome you to AM Ocala Live, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. God bless America as we bring you on Thursdays Veterans News right here at The Source. And as we do, it is our full hour today as we welcome the VA Clinic. Dr. Torres, good morning, sir. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you, and thank you our listeners.
Absolutely, and we brought a guest today, Dr. Passam. Good morning. Welcome to the studio.
Good morning.
As we've got a little bit to talk about. It's a little bit of a serious note. It's a little bit of a heavier conversation, but that's okay because that's what's necessary to continue the conversation and to bring this to awareness, as it is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month with the month of September. And we're going to lead it in with that, and we welcome you to the studio, and let's talk about it.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, again. Dr. Passam is one of our psychiatrists in the clinic. He works in the mental health area in the office, assisting and helping our veterans in the goods and the bads, and going under treatment options and refer them wherever they need to go if the clinic can provide like intensive care.
Gotcha.
So Dr. Passam will refer them wherever they need to go. So I'm going to leave the audience with Dr. Passam, which is very knowledgeable about suicide prevention.
Mm-hmm. As we begin to do that, if you want to preface yourself, Doctor, a little bit, how long you've been doing now psychiatry?
Yeah, good morning, and thank you for having me here today.
Absolutely.
I'm Dr. Possum, and I have been in this community. I have been in private practice since 1987.
Wow. Yeah.
And I have also done all my private practice and hospital work here in Ocala for the last 30 plus years. And I also used to do all psychiatry at Monroe Regional Medical Center from 1987 to 2018.
Yeah.
So I retired for a year, and then I found there is a vacancy at the VA clinic. So Dr. Mark Knapp, who used to be Dr. Torres' predecessor, he asked me to apply, and that's how I got into VA system.
Was that something, like you said, after 2018 and you're kind of retired in a way, was it
Right.
like, you know what, it's time to give a little something back with my services and what my knowledge is?
That's right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And like we said, with it being Suicide Prevention Month, you're here to talk a little bit about to the listeners and to the veterans out there, this, like I said, tough conversation, but it is important to have this conversation to keep the awareness up. So go ahead, Doctor.
Well, unfortunately, this is a serious problem in our veterans, and in the general population, we have a suicide rate of about 14.8 for 100,000 people.
Wow.
But unfortunately, in veterans, it is 30 out for 100,000 people. That's almost double.
Wow.
And also, it's also common in women. In women, it is 2.2 times more than non-veteran women.
Is that right?
And 1.3 times higher in males compared to non-veteran men. And unfortunately, the age group that is more afflicted with this is between 18 to 34.
Mm-hmm.
And also 55 and older. And the person that's at highest risk for suicide is the elderly, disabled, widowed male.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And most of the people that have these suicidal ideations, they have some risk factors. They have a lot of risk factors. First of all, most of them do have a psychiatric illness.
Okay.
It could be, ongoing depression. It could be bipolar disorder. It could be substance abuse issues. So they have some type of mental health condition which is highly treatable.
Yeah.
Which is highly treatable. In fact, the treatment aspect in mental health has improved so much. We have so many medications. We have so many therapies that can be given to patients, to steer them in the right direction. And at VA clinic we have two psychiatrists now, but pretty soon we're going to add one more. We'll have 3 psychiatrists, and we have psychologists, we have social workers, we have a whole health program, and of course we have primary care services, that will help us, to sort out any treatable causes that our veterans are facing. Mm-hmm. So depression is very highly treatable.
Yeah.
But sometimes veterans and other people, resort to this drastic measure of, trying to take their life. But help is there, and we need to help them, and it's everybody's responsibility. It's not just the mental health. It is all disciplines, in medicine. Yeah. That's why we call it suicide is transdiagnostic, which means it runs through various disciplines. It's not just the mental health staff that are, involved in treating with them.
Gotcha. Let me ask you, Doctor, in the conversation that we're going to be having here, that's everything about this month with suicide prevention. The numbers you mentioned there, the statistics, that's a little heavy too, but I wanted to ask you, and I wanted to bring it up right away, just how much more difficult is it this year, 2020, with us having this conversation with so many more people going through such a tumultuous time this year already with 2020?
Unfortunately, the suicide rate has been going up every year. I was talking to Dr. Torres while I was coming here. In 2005, I gave a talk on suicide, At that time, it was 9.8 for 100,000 people. Now we are talking about 14.8 for 100,000 people. Last year it was 13.8.
Wow.
So it has gone up 1 year. And we have actually, I have statistics here. We have 48,344 people that committed suicide in 2018. Those are the latest statistics we have. And that equals to 14.8 for 100,000. It's not percentage.
Yeah.
And it's the 10th leading cause of death.
Is that right?
10th leading cause of death.
And that's one of those things. Part of the conversation is a lot of people are unaware of that. It's I didn't think top 10. I didn't think that at all. Wow.
And Florida is 24th in suicide, and the state that has highest suicide rate is New Mexico.
Wow.
Which have 25.6 for 100,000, and the least suicide rate is in District of Columbia, 7.7.
Yeah.
So it's healthy to live in District of Columbia.
Yeah. Interesting. What's fascinating about this is part, like I said, just in lieu of the conversation, is, having these conversations, talking about stuff like this. People, are unaware of certain statistics like that. They're unaware of, like you mentioned, I think a lot of people would just make an assumption, right? They're like, think of a cloudy place, Washington State or something like that.
Right.
But you mentioned New Mexico, and you mentioned where we ranked as a state here in Florida.
We're in the middle.
Yeah, and then here some people would say, oh, what do you mean? It's the Sunshine State. But everybody puts that ignorance to something that they don't understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in your line of work, how has it been working with seeing so many misconceptions about the conversation of suicide?
Actually, in the last 25, 30 years, things have changed in psychiatry. In the beginning, when I started seeing in my private practice, most patients are not willing to accept psychiatry, but things have improved with public education. People are, getting educated themselves, and they know that it's very highly treatable. All psychiatric diagnoses are, treatable. We may not win everything, but at least we can modify, their illness. So people are coming forward with their problems. And there are some patients that still do not want to take medications, but we convince them. I tell them, whatever we do, however we act, there is always a reason. There are some chemicals in our brain that influence our behavior, our mood, and our thinking. Mm-hmm. And I have some photographs, and I'll show them to the patients. This is why you are depressed, and I think this is the chemical that's deficient in your brain, and that's why you're having depression. And we can give you medications to improve those chemicals. Mm-hmm. In fact, what they have found was in patients who are significantly depressed, if you take cerebrospinal fluid in their brain and analyze, there is a chemical called neurotrophic factor, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, that is very deficient. And when you treat these patients with antidepressant medications, that chemical gradually improves. The brain derived neurotrophic factor, so that's a proof, that.
Yeah.
And in fact, some scientists have compared your brain. If you take a neuron and put it under electron microscope and examine it, it is like usually a fresh, healthy neuron is, with a lot of connections, lot of dendrites. It's like a lawn that is well fertilized, well watered.
Okay.
So the same lawn, when you don't, fertilize it, when you don't water it, how does it look like? Mm-hmm. That's how the brain neuron looks like when people are depressed and not being treated.
And on a positive say, you're saying like how it comes on with the neuron on the electron microscope. It's woven. Yeah. It's rooted in itself, and then you see that, and then the opposite when there's the issues or deficiency. Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah, we have certain chemicals. We call them neurotransmitters, and most of the audience and most patients have heard about what's called serotonin.
Right.
Yeah, and people have heard about Prozac, which is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, SSRI. With the introduction of SSRI in 1987, things have drastically improved in psychiatry because these are medications that are extremely effective, and the side effects are minimal. And also, even if you take an overdose, chances of the patient dying is very minimal compared to what we used to have. We still have them.
Right.
They're called tricyclic antidepressant medications. For example, Elavil. If people have heard about Elavil or amitriptyline, which is an antidepressant that has been there in the market for a long time. Okay. And those medications are effective, but at the same time, they have a lot of side effects. And in overdoses, there is high chance of the patient dying.
Yeah.
So that's how we have safer medications now.
And that's kind of what we're on for the listeners that are tuning in, talking with Dr. Passam here in Veterans News, with it being Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And what we're talking about is just a little bit of the idea that there's treatment out there for some of the things like we were mentioning. Yes. We were just talking a little bit about the idea of depression and how there's options to have that be treated before it becomes to the severity of wanting somebody to take their own life.
Right.
And I was going to ask you, Doctor, in the ways that there is treatment, how difficult is it for somebody who is suffering from depression to take initiative to want to get the treatment? I know that's probably a big a gap with the bridge when you know that depression is one of those things that make us more recluse, that keeps people more introvert and less willing to divulge information or to get help and stuff like that. So in your years of expertise, how do you find a way to get people to connect to be able to find the treatment?
As I said earlier before, things are changing gradually.
Yeah.
More people are coming forward, and they don't. We used to have the stigma of seeing a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
I understand in the olden days, the psychiatrist offices have a front door and a back door.
Right.
Where the patient enters and goes from the back door so that he won't be seen by others.
Yeah.
But that kind of stigma is not there anymore. People are coming forward, and even in general hospitals, people are accepting psychiatric consultations, but we still probably need to educate them that it is treatable. It is just like any other illness. And I tell them sometimes, I compare them. Diabetes. What's the problem in diabetes? There is deficiency of insulin. Mm-hmm. So we give some medications to improve the insulin, and you get better.
Yeah.
And in schizophrenia, what's the problem? You have too much of what's called dopamine. There is a chemical called dopamine, and when there is too much of dopamine, their mood changes, their behavior changes, they start having hallucinations, delusional thinking. So we have some drugs that can decrease that dopamine, and you get better. So giving this kind of information to the patients empowers them. Yeah, this is just like any other illness. It's nothing for me to be ashamed of.
Right.
And same thing with the depressions. Depressions are also due to deficiency of chemicals like serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine. So, and we have drugs that can impact on those neurotransmitters.
Yeah, and like you said, now even so with moving through new age here, that there's actually options that, like you mentioned just before I prefaced, it was about how there's less side effects with a lot of these treatments now, and things are getting better on that front. So if there's ever a time to think about what you can do to get help that way, this is the time to do it, because
we tell them. In fact, I used to work in General Hospital a lot, and they are already on like 8-10 different medications. And they said, "Doctor, I don't want to take another medication."
Yeah.
I said, "Look, Mr. So-and-so, this may be the life-saving medication for you.
Yeah.
Because depression can kill you.
Yeah.
And if you have depression, if you have all other medical problems, they're not going to get better until your depression is treated.
Right.
Yeah, depression increases what's called all-cause mortality. So I try to convince them, this may be the most important medication for you to take.
Right.
And if there are side effects, there is no medication in medicine that doesn't have side effects. Even aspirin can kill people.
Right.
Right. So we'll be cautious, and if there is some side effect, we'll be glad to address it immediately. Maybe we can decrease the dose or go to a different medication. So there are options available.
And does some of that help take away some of the stigma that, a lot of people say, with antidepressants, it just leaves you feeling almost melancholy or just in that weird limbo of feeling and emotion where you don't feel a little too excited, but you don't feel as depressed as you did. We need to move past that kind of delusion that there's options out there like you're talking about right now that are good, and to leave those misconceptions behind, right?
And unfortunately, there are a few patients, in spite of whatever we do, they do not get better. And we call them treatment-resistant depression.
Okay.
We tried all the medications and they're not showing any improvement. We have other options available.
Mm-hmm.
We have shock treatment. Many people do not like to hear the word shock treatment.
Yeah.
But in fact, fortunately, that's one of the best treatments. And you see results within the third or fourth day after you started the shock. Third or fourth shock the patient has received. And for elderly people, it is the best option because they don't have too much time, and it does not have that many side effects.
Right.
In spite of that, unfortunately, what happened was shock treatment was abused. In the past, in 1950s, when we don't have anything else, they lined up patients and gave shock treatments. And most people think about one flew over the cuckoo's nest when they think about shock treatment.
And I was going to say, elaborate a little bit more on the shock treatment for those wondering.
Shock treatment is very humane now. It's not like what they have seen in the movies, and it is done in an operating room. And there is an anesthesiologist present, and there is a trained psychiatrist that administers the shock treatment, and they can drive to that, to the clinic on that day, but they need to have somebody to, take them home because there is some, confusion afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But by afternoon, evening, they will be all right. We have it in Gainesville. We don't have any. In fact, I used to do shock treatment at Charter Springs Hospital in early 90s.
Yeah.
I have some training at Duke University about shock treatment, and I brought shock treatment to Ocala. Me and there is Dr. Moskowitz. If some other people may have heard about him. Him and Dr. Sarah, we three of us used to do shock treatment in Charter Springs Hospital, which is now called the Wines Hospital.
Okay.
And now we send patients, if necessary, to either University of Florida or for veterans, Department of Psychiatry at VA. They do that. And in spite of all that, there are some other patients, they do not want to hear about it, they do not want to talk about shock treatment, and they have other options. There is what's called TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, which is very benign. There are no major side effects except a little headache. You sit in between two powerful magnets, and the trained psychiatrist has adjusted all the parameters. I'm not trained in that, so I really can't give you too much information.
Yeah, but so far a lot of good information as we are coming to the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour. For those listening, Veterans News, as we have the VA clinic here. Of course, we have Dr. Torres, but as well as Dr. Passam, psychiatrist talking about some of the options out there as it is Suicide Prevention Month. And we were just talking about the treatments that are out there that have come a long way, that are a lot better, to try to inform those who may need that help. But as we come to the bottom here to take a little bit of a break, we're going to come back. We got some more stuff to talk about with you, Doctor, and keep that conversation rolling. WOCA 96.3 FM, back after this.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. Sally's being blamed for killing at least one person in Alabama, and even though it's been downgraded to a tropical depression, there are warnings of more catastrophic flooding.
Over 30 inches of rain across the coast of Florida and Alabama. Incredible. The damage, of course, is considerable over these areas. The good news is the National Hurricane Center has issued their last warning on Sally. We're still going to deal with the potential, however, of heavy rainfall over parts of Alabama into Georgia and the Carolinas. Flash flood warnings in effect in and around the Atlanta, Georgia area.
Fox meteorologist Janice Dean, some 500,000 people are without power. And first-time claims for jobless benefits coming in at 860,000. That is slightly above the 850,000 expected. Continuing claims, though, coming in slightly better than expected. America's listening to Fox News.
Right now, Allstate has almost as many ways to save as there are types of music. Save for being a new customer. Save for driving safely. Save for driving less with pay-per-mile insurance. Visit Allstate.com or contact your local agent to get a quote. Find out how much you can save today. Allstate. Now that should be music to your ears.
Not available in every state. Savings based on early signing discount drive-bys and mile-wise. Savings vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Smoothbrook, Illinois.
It's happening. In just days, Publishers Clearinghouse will be ready to award $1,000 a day for life. Enter now at PCH.com, and you and your family could soon be celebrating the win of a lifetime. Don't miss your last chance to win $1,000 a day for life. Go to PCH.com before it's too late. That's PCH.com. Better hurry if you want the next big winner to be you. Enter at PCH.com now. Entries due 10/28. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Oh, hey, Grandpa.
Oh, hey, Grandpa.
Hey, Grandpa.
Yes, buddy?
Can you take me fishing this weekend?
I'd love to.
Have you noticed a change in your hearing over the years? Missing the little things in life? Visit Beneficial Hearing in Ocala today. Their expert team of audiologists will make sure you never miss a moment. Call Beneficial Hearing today at 352-629-4418 or visit them online, beneficialhearing.com.
There's a staycation right here in town. It's Super 8 Motel Ocala, right down the road on 40, just west of I-75. And they're pet friendly. Have truck parking, free breakfast,
Yum, yum.
a swimming pool, a kiddie pool, and veterans get 10% off. It's a staycation at Super 8 Ocala. Call today, Super 8 Ocala at 352-629-8794. Again, 352-629-8794.
When it really counts, depend on The Source for the latest weather updates, keeping you ahead of the storm. 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source.
Humid today with clouds and sunshine, a couple of afternoon showers, high 89 to 91. Some sunshine Friday, then turning cloudy and humid with a thunderstorm, high 88 to 92. Saturday, cloudy and humid with a couple of thunderstorms possible, high 87 to 91. Sunday, cloudy and humid with a thunderstorm possible, high 90 to 92. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Brian May.
Pals Ocala Auto Repair fixes all makes and models. Pals makes sure that your vehicle's engine, mechanical, and electrical components are healthy at all times. Pals team would much rather see you drive to their shop for a full checkup than be towed in for a complex repair. Give Pals a call today to schedule your next service appointment. 352-414-2984. What? A nationwide warranty, 36 months or 36,000 miles, whichever comes first? Pals looks forward to servicing you and servicing your vehicle. 352-414-2984.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
The Centers and Marion County's Children's Alliance are holding a drive through Recovery Resource event at the Centers on September 26th from 10 to 1. Get recovery in a bag for Recovery Month.
Veterans Helping Veterans USA. Call 352-433-2320. We help veterans and their families with limited financial assistance, counseling, employment referrals, and a food and clothing bank. You can help in making a huge difference in the veterans' lives we serve by donating food, clothing, household items, or direct financial assistance. All donations are tax deductible. Veterans Helping Veterans USA. 352-433-2320. Thank you for your attention, and God bless America.
The trees are rolling out the door at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens. We're talking about 2 super buys on Ocala's favorites. Number 1 size Red Bud, regularly $19.99, just $12.99 this week at Bob Wine's. Or a big number 5 size Golden Raintree. These beauties are regularly $59.99, but this week they're just $29.99 at Bob Wine's. And remember, when you buy 1 tree at Bob Wine's super low price, you get a second one just like it for half price. Other buys this week at Bob's Place include fresh herbs, starting at just $1.99. Fall veggies in the jumbo 4-pack, still just $3.99. Fruit trees, blueberry, $5.99. Papaya, $9.99. Fig trees, $29.99. And citrus, just $59.99. All huge savings this week, so come out early for best selection at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens on Southeast 38th Street, Ocala, daily till 4:30 in the same blooming place since 1952.
WOCA. Ocala.
Listening to 96.3 FM 1370 AM as we are back with that sound. You know it is Thursday as we're continuing our hour-long segment this week with Veterans News, as a lot of good information here as we have Dr. Torres, like we do in the studio with the VA Clinic. Welcome, Doctor. And he's brought along Dr. Possum, who's a psychiatrist who's been talking so much about the options out there for treatment that come along with suicide prevention and depression and anxiety and everything else that leads down the road to suicide, as it is September with the month of Suicide Prevention Month. And we were talking a lot about treatments and everything else that's out there, Doctor. I thought when we'd carry into this part here is talking a little bit about there to kind of educate the listeners a little bit. You mentioned you are a psychiatrist. It's kind of getting away from the stigma about people actually talking to, whether it be a psychologist or psychiatrist, to actually get help, get that mental help, sound mind, sound body. I was going to say, can you elaborate a little bit for the listeners out there who might not know the difference between what it means for psychologists and psychiatrists and the options that are there?
Okay. Yeah. So, psychiatrists are physicians to begin with,
okay,
and then they branch out to do specialize in psychiatry, just like somebody goes to do cardiology or somebody chooses internal medicine. So people that want to become psychiatrists, they choose psychiatry specialization, which is a 3 years of residency post internship.
Gotcha.
And then, if you want to specialize afterwards, you can specialize in child and adolescent psychiatry and do another 2 years of fellowship, geriatric psychiatry, substance abuse psychiatry, and addiction psychiatry, that's called, or forensic. So there are a lot of specializations.
Yeah.
I have specialized, in addition to psychiatry, in geriatric psychiatry.
Yeah.
I wanted to be close to medicine, and that's where you can be, close to medicine. And on the other hand, psychologists are, they're trained in psychology, they're trained in diagnosis and treatment without using medications.
Okay.
They are more trained in providing psychotherapy, counseling services, family therapy services. So we have 3 psychologists at VA Clinic. That does. We complement each other.
Absolutely.
We're not competitive. We complement each other.
Complement each other. Yeah.
And at the same time, we have social workers. Who are trained about social services, and they also can provide counseling services. They can talk to the patients and families. And we have, we don't have at the clinic, but we have other specializations called licensed mental health counselors.
Yeah.
Disciplines like that.
Yeah, and with that, like you mentioned with the psychologist, there to at least provide the what you could say is the talking effect, being able to have somebody to kind of confide what is going on, so to speak, in their mind, so let that out a little bit. But it comes to the more serious side of it, like you mentioned with psychiatry, that then is the diagnosis for stuff that would have to have the medications and the treatment that we were discussing before the break. And, it's important to the listeners, I think, to just know a little bit of the difference, for those who think that they need, some help is a place to begin, and then where it can go from there, maybe with, like you said, like a diagnosis, and then from there treatment.
Yeah, and psychiatrists, since they're also physicians, they can review all the medications, because sometimes the medication can cause problems.
Sure.
Some medications can cause depression. Some medication can cause memory problems. Some medications can cause psychosis. So we are in a unique position to, tease out, what's causing. And also sometimes the medical problems can create psychiatric problems.
Okay. Yeah.
For example, if somebody is having hypothyroidism, that can also cause depression.
Is that right?
So in that way, psychiatrists are trained to tease out, what actually is going on. We review the medications, we review the laboratory workup, we order laboratory workup if needed.
Yeah, excellent. I wanted to turn it to a note, as much as we're doing veterans news. I know that with this conversation being a little bit tougher, we know that a lot of the service members, our men and women in the armed forces, there was a time, I still believe it now, that they deal with a lot when coming back from combat. We hear so much about PTSD, and we hear about how it's such a struggle for them to fit back in to the real world, or to this landscape that we deal with. In your line of work, Doctor, how have you seen things with veterans that have come back from combat? How have you seen things with those who have handled PTSD and all that?
Most veterans find it very difficult to adjust to the civilian life after coming out of service, and that's a very risky period for them. In fact, there was an article very recently in the last 1 week. I just happened to read part of it. So if they happen to come to seek services for us, they get to see a psychiatrist, and then, as I said, we have psychologists. We have some psychologists that are specialized in PTSD treatment.
Yeah.
So they have more knowledge and they have more skills to apply what is the best for the veteran. And we do treat their depression, we do treat their nightmares with medications, and insomnia, that is not sleeping well, is another major problem, and that can be a risk factor.
Because that's a snowball effect, right? If they're not getting the proper rest and they're having those anxieties, that leads more towards those chemical imbalances, correct?
And we have medications that we can offer to treat the nightmares and sleep problems, help them to relax and have a good night's sleep.
Yeah. Is there symptoms before a diagnosis with service members that come back having a hard time? Everybody would have a hard time adjusting to anything, being gone from home for a while. But is there anything you can tell the listeners is to be on the look for, or certain symptoms that you may see that become a level that would then have the advice to have them seek treatment or seek help?
They have mood disorders, like having anxiety. They are used to certain kind of life, very disciplined, type of rigorous schedules. And once they came out of service, here it is, how they are going to adjust, how the people are going to pursue them. And so they have these adjustment difficulties, and even the families, their own spouses, the children, how they look at them, how they treat them. So it's a strange new world for them again.
Yeah.
So they start having anxiety, sleep problems, and sometimes nightmares about what they have experienced back in service.
Yeah.
I see at least one or two with PTSD every day. The veterans tell me about how it has been. Yesterday, someone was telling me how they were peppered with bullets while their convoy is moving. How the IEDs are going up, on the side of the road. And how their comrades are being burnt in trenches, and that causes a lot of anxiety, turmoil, feelings of guilt, and it's not uncommon. Some of the soldiers commit suicide while in service, and
is that right?
Some of the their friends, their colleagues become very guilty.
Right.
Oh my God, I should have done something about it.
Right. Because they're trained so disciplined in the idea that that's your brother next to you, and you put your life in their hands, and then they reciprocate that. So to feel that guilt is a commonality, but it's something that can overwhelm a person, like you said.
Exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of this, and like I said, this is part of that conversation, because it's also interesting because what they go through, a lot of people don't necessarily understand. So I think sometimes, and you hear about it, where maybe these servicemen and women come back and they assume that nobody knows what they've been through, so they have a hard time sharing that. So what would you recommend for those who feel that way?
We help them at ease, try to let them proceed at their own pace, if they don't want to talk something about, that's fine, when they feel comfortable, they're welcome to share those experiences. Sometimes, some women patients do not want to talk to male patients about certain issues, which is okay. We can refer them to, our female colleagues. So they do go through a lot of turmoil, but I let them go through at their own pace, showing that empathy and giving them the respect. And these are things that happen to people, and more so in veterans because of the type of work they have been involved in.
Yeah. What is some of the most common treatments that you see, whether it be medication or other things that you do to handle PTSD?
We first, we see a patient for 45-50 minutes. If I'm seeing a patient for the first time, I actually review the chart before the patient comes to see me. To see if they have any previous treatment, what their diagnosis has been, so that it'll give you some background information. And when they come, I share that with them, and then they talk about their problems, what's going on in their life. We talk about their illness, any past treatment that they have been through, and also about their family. Their parents, their siblings, brothers, sisters. If there is any illness in their family, because some of the illnesses, just like in medicine, some of the psychiatric illnesses also run in families. For example, bipolar disorder, usually runs in families. Depression runs in families. So we get all that information, and also how they are dealing currently with their own families, like with their spouse, their children, and also discuss about their physical issues, any medical problems, any just going through a cursory physical examination kind of thing, review all the systems and come to a diagnosis, and review all their medications, and I propose, I think this is what is going on with you, and these are probably the best medication, and immediately, what are the side effects?
Right.
Yeah. And I tell them, there are going to be a few side effects, but as I told you before, fortunately, we have medications that have very few and minimal side effects, and which we can deal with. If there is a side effect that you really cannot deal with, call me anytime. We can always stop it. You can always stop it before you call me. And I won't do anything that's going to harm you. You are here to get some help. We are here to help you,
Right.
not
Right.
to harm you.
Right.
So it's kind of participatory, we do it as a team, we discuss about it and give all the options, pros and cons of each treatment we are offering. And we come to a conclusion. This probably is a good drug for you. And I explain about the side effects, and we'll start with small doses and gradually build it up. There's a rule that start low and go slow.
Right.
Yeah, because if you start a bigger dose and they have side effects, they're not going to believe you again. So we do that, and we do that more so in elderly patients, because they need smaller doses, and we gradually build it up. And then there are other things that I cannot do. I can refer to my colleagues like psychologists or therapists, and if they have any substance abuse issues, we send them to specialists. And if they need any specialized treatment for PTSD, we have special treatment planners in Gainesville, in the villages. We don't have specialists in PTSD in our clinic. We have psychologists that can do it, but people that need even more intensive treatment, we make arrangements for them to refer to these other locations that we don't have services available.
Gotcha. With less than 10 minutes to go, with everything we've been discussing, Doctor, I figure we could leave this next bit of time for the listeners out there to maybe give them some steps or some information where they can go, the information of where they can go to begin help, or to maybe a family member that can understand where this information is so they can go get more of it.
They can start with their primary care physician.
Okay.
Because
something
that's
simple, right?
They can discuss about it, and if the primary care physician feels that he or she will benefit from psychiatry, they refer to us. And again, it's not just primary care. It's everybody's responsibility, to even if they cannot diagnose, if they feel that there's a problem with anxiety or depression, because they really impact on the physical health. Depression is a huge risk factor for heart disease.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
And so they can refer to psychiatrists or psychologists or social workers or therapists. And when the other people feel that he or she will benefit from psychiatric intervention, they can send it to us. So there are ways for them to receive help. And also they can, if they're in a crisis, we have a crisis number.
Yes, and that's actually what I was looking for there. We used to have the card just right up there up front, and I'm not sure.
1-800-273-TALK.
Yeah, go ahead one more time with that number so those can write it down.
1-800-273-TALK or 8255 and press 1.
Press 1. Yeah. And that gets them in touch with a person that they can talk to right away.
They can talk to a live person.
Absolutely. And with that, Dr. Torres, I know with the card we had, it always mentions that for the loved ones that are around these folks, that if they start having any kind of symptoms or talking a certain way about certain things, that those may be red flags to then have them go ahead and call for them to get that help. I think it's interesting, like you said, just starting very simplistically, like your family physician, being able to say, their family doctor, you can confide in them a little bit. You can let them know that there are some issues or there's things that are plaguing you in a way when it comes to that, and then they can from there seek other options.
Actually, it's the primary care physician that treats more psychiatric patients than psychiatrists.
Right? Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
It's another misconception. Boy, I'm learning a lot today. That's for sure.
Primary care start diagnosing, getting the first impression of what can be going on, gathering possible warning signs, because basically you see your primary more than you see a psychiatrist in a common basis.
Yeah.
So primary care kind of start medications and see if the patient get stability with just basic treatment. As primary care physicians, we can treat patients up to a certain level. So we also work close to psychology. Some patients, they like or prefer to stay with primary care and a psychologist and see how that goes. But the primary care physician need to make the agreement with the patient that at a certain level, there's a possibility if there's no improvement, we'll need to see a specialist in that area to handle and look for other options.
And that's okay. And that's part of the conversation we're having with Suicide Prevention Month is that that's okay, that this is this needs to be talked about. It's one of those things that's a little apropos, right, in the idea of, and that's what this month is about, Doctor, is just going ahead and getting the awkward conversation out there. But by doing so and making that more aware, people have the options then to get the help.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Besides the Veteran Crisis Line, there is also a confidential chat at veteranscrisisline.net. Again, it's veteranscrisisline.net, or you can text to 838255. Again, the text is 838255. And you can start a conversation. And the crisis line, like Dr. Passam already says, is 1-800-273-8255. The Ocala CBUC number is 352-369-3320 to communicate with the primary care teams and let us know any issues or irregularities, or if you, all the listeners and family members, if your family members are presenting warning signs that are concerning, just please call and talk to the primary care doctor to seek for more assistance.
And then just real quick, for those, what would be more specific about those warning signs? What would be some of those warning signs?
Okay, yeah, I have some of the warning signs are first changes in behavior. You know, they may not be taking their medications. They're isolating themselves, not socializing like they used to, and changes in sleep patterns, you know, insomnia. One of the characteristic problem with depression is early morning awakening, EMA we call it.
Interesting.
You know, they wake up around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and have trouble falling asleep. That is a very characteristic symptom of, depression.
Yeah.
And also increased use of substance abuse, substance use like alcohol or other substances.
And that's just the idea of self-medicating.
Not responding to phone calls, not responding to phone calls, texts and everything like that. Even getting aggressive, physical as well as verbal aggressive. And then sometimes even preparatory behaviors like writing a will or selling their belongings.
Okay.
Buying a gun.
Yeah.
So those are the things that should trigger the family members to do something about it. Those are the warning signs.
Absolutely. As we are making our way now to closing out this show here with Veterans News, doctors, we appreciate it. I was going to leave it. We just got another minute. Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with, Dr. Torres, Dr. Hassan?
I want to leave with this. Suicide, once they are gone, it also affects a lot of people in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah. For each suicide, there are 147 people that will be affected.
My goodness.
And out of that 147, 6 of them will go through serious psychological distress.
Yeah.
So even though somebody is gone, there's a lot of turmoil that's left behind.
Right. So, that's quite a wake after something like that. Like you mentioned, that many people to impact. Again, just another interesting statistic that you bring to light, that so many misconceptions about this. This is the importance of getting this conversation out there. It's such a serious conversation, and like I try to tell the listeners here, we're to keep you informed, a little entertained with our morning show. But with this month, we had on the centers here of Ocala in yesterday to talk a little bit more about what they do with this month and what that means for those recovering from substance abuse or dealing with anxieties and depressions that lead them towards that bitter end path of suicide, and it's to have these conversations. It's to be informed with the information that you guys brought to light today. So a lot of good stuff, and we absolutely appreciate you guys coming in to talk about it, because that makes it a lot easier for me to ask the good questions that I'm sure a lot of listeners are thinking the same. So for you doctors, we appreciate it. For those listening, as we're coming to the top of the 10 o'clock hour, that'll do it for this week's Veterans News. And stay tuned for Hank and Gary next week, as we will have them on. Dr. Torres, Dr. Pasim, thank you very, very much. And God bless America, everybody.
Thank you.
It would still be a record number pre-pandemic, but fewer Americans are on unemployment, including 860,000 new claims last week.
10,000 higher than we were expecting, but down 24,000 from the week before, so that is positive. The continuing claims down 12.6 million here. The expectation was down 13 million, so that's roughly the lowest that we've seen since April, which is a positive sign.
Fox Business Network's Jackie DeAngelis. What was Hurricane Sally has left behind a lot of flooding, with more to